A Reckoning in the Woods, Chapter 3. The warmth of the morning sun seeped through the dense canopy, its golden rays slicing through the shadows and painting dappled patterns on the forest floor. A light breeze rustled through the leaves, carrying with it the scent of damp earth, pine, and the lingering freshness of dew. Nera stirred, blinking against the light filtering through the trees. Her body ached, her legs stiff from running, her arms scratched and stung from the brambles she had torn through in the night. Every muscle protested as she shifted, her back pressed against the rough bark of the fallen tree she had called shelter. The ground beneath her had been cold and unyielding, and her sleep had been shallow, haunted by the fear of pursuit. But no one had found her. Yet. She sat up slowly, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. Birds called to one another in the treetops, their songs a stark contrast to the danger that lurked beyond the forest's edge. For the first time since her escape, she allowed herself to take in her surroundings properly. Towering trees loomed all around her, their trunks thick with age, their roots stretching like great gnarled fingers beneath the soil. The forest was ancient, untouched by war, untouched by men. Sunlight trickled in through the swaying branches, illuminating patches of green moss that clung to the rocks and fallen logs. Somewhere in the distance, a small brook gurgled over smooth stones, its sound a gentle whisper in the silence. Nera inhaled deeply, the crisp morning air filling her lungs. She was still alive, she was still free, and yet she was not safe. Her stomach twisted with hunger, a sharp gnawing emptiness that she could no longer ignore. She needed food. She needed water. She needed to keep moving before Lord Jareth's men realized she was gone. But before she could rise to her feet, a noise in the distance made her freeze. Voices. Nera's breath caught in her throat. The blood in her veins turned to ice as her body tensed, every sense going alert. The voices were distant but growing closer. Men. Their words were rough, their tones laced with cruel amusement, and beneath them a different sound, softer, desperate, a woman's voice, a child crying. Nera's pulse pounded in her ears. She knew the sound of fear when she heard it, her fingers dug into the dirt. Turn away, she told herself. You can't help them. You have no weapon, no strength left. If you get caught. A scream cut through the morning stillness. Nera moved before she could stop herself. Her bare feet barely made a sound as she crept forward, weaving through the trees, following the voices. Each step was careful, calculated. She pressed herself close to the thick trunks, her breath coming in steady, silent pulls. The closer she got, the clearer the scene became. She reached the edge of a small clearing and pressed her back against a tree, peering around its trunk. A family, a man, his wife, and a boy no older than 6, stood huddled together in front of an overturned cart. Their meager belongings were strewn across the dirt, sacks of grain split open, their contents spilling onto the ground. Before them stood 3 men. They were rough-looking, their clothes patched and dirt-streaked, their faces unshaven. Bandits, the kind that preyed on travelers, scavenging the ruins of war. One of them, a tall brute with greasy hair, held a rusted sword, its edge dull but still deadly. He leaned lazily against the cart, watching with mild amusement as the second man, a shorter, stockier thug, twirled a thick wooden club in his hands, tapping it rhythmically against his palm. But it was the third man, the leader, that sent a chill down Nera's spine. He was taller than the others, his build lean and wiry, his face sharp like a blade. He had a jagged scar down his left cheek, and his eyes glinted with something dark and cruel. He held the woman by the wrist, yanking her closer as she struggled. "You've nothing worth taking," he said, his voice laced with mockery. "But I suppose we can still find a use for you." The woman let out a choked sob, her free hand reaching for her child. The little boy clung to his mother's skirts, his face pale with terror. The husband lunged forward, his fists clenched in rage. But the man with the club swung hard, slamming it into his stomach. The sound of the impact was sickening. The man collapsed, gasping for air as his wife screamed his name. The leader laughed, tightening his grip on the woman. "You should be grateful," he sneered. "You'll be worth more coin in the next village than all this spoiled grain." Something inside Nera snapped. Her hands curled into fists, her heartbeat roaring in her ears. She had spent her entire life watching as men took whatever they wanted: land, food, lives. She had watched her mother waste away in sickness while the warlords bled their village dry. She had been sold, like nothing more than an object to be traded. She would not watch it happen again. She moved. She grabbed the nearest fallen branch, a thick, sturdy piece of wood, and charged. The leader didn't see her coming until it was too late. With all the force she could muster, Nera swung the branch, slamming it into the back of his head. The crack echoed through the clearing. He stumbled forward with a curse, his grip loosening just enough for the woman to tear free. The other two bandits whipped around, startled. Nera didn't hesitate. She lunged at the man with the club, jabbing the sharp end of the branch into his gut before kicking his leg out from under him. He went down with a grunt, his weapon tumbling from his grasp. But the third man, the one with the sword, was faster. He swung at her, and she barely dodged, feeling the wind of the blade as it whistled past her face. Her pulse pounded, too slow. She grabbed a handful of dirt from the ground and threw it into his eyes. He shouted, stumbling back, clawing at his face. The leader, still dazed, lunged at her. His hands wrapped around her wrist, his grip like iron. For a brief, terrifying moment, Nera's heart stopped. He was stronger. He could overpower her. But she refused to be taken. She slammed her knee into his gut. He let out a strangled grunt, his grip loosening just enough. She wrenched her arm free and snatched the fallen club from the ground. Turning to the family, she shouted, "Run! Now!" The woman grabbed her son and pulled her husband up, dragging him toward the trees. The bandits realized too late what was happening. Nera swung the club into the swordsman's ribs, knocking him down. Then she turned and ran in the opposite direction, leading the remaining men away from the family. Their furious shouts rang behind her, but she didn't stop. She darted between the trees, the thick underbrush slowing her pursuers. She weaved, ducked, twisted, losing them in the endless maze of the forest. Finally, when their voices faded into the distance, she collapsed against a tree, gasping for breath. She had won. And for the first time since fleeing the village, Nera felt something ignite inside her. Not fear, not despair, power.